Thanks so much for watching. My name is Kelly and I grow in my suburban backyard. I'm hanging out with my chickens right now if you hear some funny noises. I used to grow much larger scale. We actually had a 10-acre farm. All 10 acres were not flowers, but probably about an acre in flowers. A couple years ago we sold the farm, moved to town, so now I grow on a small scale, but I of course had to bring, some of the farm with me. This is hazelnut. But today I wanted to talk about spring flowers. Now that I am growing on such a small scale compared to what I was, I'm having to be really choosy about what flowers I grow. So I'm going to talk about spring flowers today, my favorite must grows. Now caveat is I actually don't have all of these in my yard this year, but I do have my order in for next year already, and I will be growing all of these. And if I had to pick only a few spring flowers, these are the ones I would pick. Hellebores are always the very first flowers in my garden. They finally, when they bloom, it starts to feel like winter is over, so that's one of the reasons why I love them so much. They come in a wide variety of colors. I do tend to like the darker ones. I think they're kind of romantic and different. They're not super flashy. They kind of face downward. The colors can be muted, but they feel calm and they're there when everything else is waking up, and for that reason I love them so much. For growing, these are perennials. They really prefer a shadier spot. I planted mine once and now they just come back every year. And I deeply appreciate them at this time of year. For cutting, hellebores can be a little tricky. You really want to wait until the blooms are more mature, and they should almost feel a bit leathery and all of the pollen will have dropped. If you cut them too early, they'll just wilt immediately. I also split the stems about 1 to 2 inches to help them uptake water. Once they're at that stage though, they actually hold really well in a vase. Design-wise, I use the boar as a supporting flower. They just make everything feel really, beautiful and natural. And they're just a really peaceful way to start the season. I feel like there's a big misconception that daffodils are boring, and I love daffodils, are also called narcissus, so much. They're like the official start of spring. They're bright, cheerful. They can be a little chaotic, but I think in a good way. They're also perennials, and in zone 6B I plant them in the fall, usually around October or November before the ground freezes. Then they just pop up on their own every year. They naturalize really well. If you're using them for cut flowers, there's one important thing to know. Daffodils produce a sap that can be harmful to other flowers, so you always want to condition them and put them in water first before you're using them in an arrangement with other things. So what I do is cut them, let them sit in water by themselves for a few hours, then you can mix them in, and that step makes a big difference. They don't have the longest vase life, probably 4 to 6 days, but I think they're worth it. Tulips, one of my favorites. They are definitely a diva. They take a lot of work and a lot of care. I plant these in the fall as well, same time as daffodils, and they bloom in early to mid-spring. The thing about tulips is they don't stop growing after you cut them, so they keep stretching and bending towards the light, which means they don't often behave the way you expect in a bouquet, which, I kind of like about them. So I do treat them as an annual. That means I pull the bulb at the end of, when I harvest it, I pull the whole bulb up. So they don't do well as a perennial here, and a perennial if you're using it for a cut flower. So they're a little unpredictable, but that is a part of the charm. And they speak for themselves. They're just totally gorgeous, and I couldn't imagine spring without them. Vase life is usually around 5 to 7 days, sometimes longer if you keep the water super fresh. So this one is not a very common one. I don't think I ever had seen them before I saw them in a bulb catalog, and boy, I sure am glad I found them. These are called Leucojum or summer snowflakes. Super underrated. I think they look just like lily of the valley, but they're super tall, so super usable in bouquets and arrangements. Planted in the fall from bulbs like daffodils and tulips. And unlike tulips, they come back year after year after year, just like daffodils. As a cut flower, they last a surprisingly long time, usually about a week. Not something you would use as a focal flower, but what an incredible filler. They look like little fairy hats to me. They add this light, airy feeling. They kind of help just tie everything together. They're subtle, but I love them so much. What do you think? In this arrangement, you can see the daffodils, you can see the Leucojum, you can see the Hellebores and kind of how they all behave in a bouquet. Such beautiful movement. Very classic spring flower bouquet here with all of these ingredients. What are you girls doing? What are you doing under there? Come on out. What are you doing? Hazelnut. Hazelnut, come here. Hey girl. Hey girl, you lay some eggs today? Brownie. Peanut butter. Come here, girls. What are you doing? What's so fun under there? Okay, next up is one of my favorite flowers of all time. I mean, there's really just nothing like it. And of course, this is Ranunculus. In zone 6B, they can be tricky. Not for the newbie grower. I either plant them very, very early spring or try to overwinter them with protection, but they don't love extreme cold. So here in Indiana, timing really matters. They take a lot of babysitting. So they grow from corms, and once they get going, they produce these really layered, delicate blooms that are almost like tissue paper. They last forever in a vase, often 7 to 10 days. They are hardy, they're hard to damage, they are incredible. Absolutely, they're focal flowers. They're the kind of bloom that just elevates everything in the bouquet with them. They take a little bit of effort, but I would say they are just 100% worth it. Makes everything feel high-end and incredible. Peonies, peonies. These are the flower that everyone waits for, I mean, including me. They're perennials, and once they're established, they come back bigger and better every year. They come in a range of colors. They do take a little bit of patience to get going. You need to wait about 3 to 4 years before you start cutting on them. In zone 6B, they're planted in fall, and then you just wait and wait. For cutting, timing is everything. You want to harvest them in what's called the marshmallow stage, where the bud feels soft, but it hasn't opened yet. Here I'm disbudding mine, which means removing the side buds, so the plant puts all of its energy into one big bloom, and that gives you some really huge, nice, chunky, dramatic flowers, just like these. The season is really short, which honestly makes peonies feel even more special. Last but not least of my favorite spring flowers are poppies. Poppies just make everything feel a little magical. I grow Icelandic poppies, and they're best planted super early. They don't like the heat. Planted either in late fall or very early spring in zone 6. The buds kind of look fuzzy and weird at first, but they open into these really delicate paper-like flowers. For cutting, you harvest them in the bud stage, just as they're starting to crack open. They don't have the longest vase life, usually around 5 days, but I mean, look at them. Totally still worth it. Grow them every year. They bring something really unique that you just can't replace in a bouquet with anything else. They're fleeting, but that's kind of the whole point with cut flowers. You just enjoy them for a short time while you have them. So this is my little cutting garden. This is one area in my backyard. You can see I'm using landscape fabric. Things are just getting going. It's pretty sparse here in the early spring, but the poppies are going to be starting soon. Ranunculus are going to be starting soon. So this is what we're working with right now in suburban Columbus, Indiana. I'm just using whatever space I have. I've got foxgloves, delphinium snapdragons over here. Really considering using a bunch of my front yard as well for cut flowers. Gonna see if we got any eggs. I think Molly already came out here earlier. So let's see. Nope, None right here. Let's check inside. Man, Molly cleared us out today. You stay in. You stay in, girl. Uh-oh. Hello. Hello. Ah! Thank you so much if you followed along. This is my very first YouTube video, so I really appreciate you watching and supporting. Thank you.